Good morning. It's not afternoon. I almost said good afternoon. Good morning. Today we are doing PO26. It is a power objective. Super important. We have been working with percentages. What's going on? Okay. But you're distracting me. So say thank you later. Okay? I can find a part, whole, or percent using an equation or proportion. So we're going to be using a very specific formula that you'll use a lot. So it's important that we know this. This is why it's a power objective. So we need to know the formula. We need to know how to use it. And it goes pretty easy once we understand it. So in every situation involving a percentage, there are three components: the part, the whole, and the percent. So let's make it easy. 70% of 100 is 30, right? So 70% is the percent of 100. 100 is our whole number. That's the whole amount. Is 70. That is the part, right? 70%, that's the percentage of 100. That is the whole. Is 70. 70 is the part. The part's always the smaller number. If our percentage is under 100, the part will be smaller. So part, in our formula, we use a P. For the whole in the formula, we're going to use the W. And for the percent, we're going to use the percent sign. So in each example below, we're going to identify the part, the whole, and the percent. So 72 is 90% of 80. Is 72 the part, the whole, or the percent? Will. Listen carefully. 72 is 90% of 100. The easiest one to do is going to be our percent, right? Because it's got a percent sign. So we can always put that percent on there. Then we have to decide what's the part and what's the whole. So 90% is less than 100%. So our part is going to be the smaller number. The whole is going to be the bigger number. So try it again, Will. 72 is the part. And 80 is our whole. Does that make sense? The part is going to be smaller than the whole if our percentage is smaller than 100%. So, now it's worded differently. 16% of 30 is 4.8. We're going to do that easy one first. I know my percentage. 16% of 30 is 4.8. So is 30 the part or the whole? Fiona? The whole. 4.8 is our part. It is the small piece of 30. Oh my goodness. They worded it even differently on the next one. 20 over 25 equals 80 over 100. They don't have a percentage sign. How do I know what my percent is? Because I need a part, a whole, and a percent. Grace? How did you get 80%? There's no percent sign. 80 over 100. Remember, 100 is that key. Percent literally means 80 per of 100. 80%. So this is our percent. 80 of 100 is the percent. Then Grace was right. The small number is our part. The big number is our whole. So that would be 20%. Sorry. 20 is 80% of 25. James.
You could also say that 20 is 25% of 85.
not the way this is worded, because it's 80 over 100. So it's not talking 25%, because we have the 80 over 100. All right. That makes sense how we figure out for parts, whole, and percent?
Yep.
All right, so let's scroll up. So finding a part, a whole, or a percent can be set up in two different ways. So we saw up here, we saw it with the fraction. So we can do that as the proportion. So we could have the part over the whole equals the percent over 100. So the part over the whole equals the percent over 100, just like we saw in that last example. If we're going to do the equation, the part equals the percent times the whole. That's the formula you're going to want to know. So you could narrow it down to say the part equals the percent times the whole. You need to know this. We will use this a lot in math. Okay. So find the part, whole, or percent using the methods above. Show your work. So I need to scroll up. You should have this written down. Not sure why we're making goofy noises. We're doing a lesson. What number is 35% of 70? Well, I have my two different methods. The first one would be setting up the proportion. When I say what number is 35% of 70, what am I looking for? The part, the whole, or the percent, Jude?
The part.
The part. I know the 35% is a percent, and I know 70 is my whole. So if I look at my proportions, I have part over whole equals the percent over 100. So I don't know my part. I know my whole is 70. I know it equals that percent. So 35 over 100. Can I solve for the part?
Yes.
How? Ooh, this is our one-step formula, one-step equation. Part over 70. What math am I doing here? I'm dividing. So what do I have to do to get that part by itself? Damien?
You do 70 divided by 35. Or no, 0.35 times 70.
So I have dividing here, so I'm going to want to multiply by 70. Now, Damien took it a step easier and said, well, I don't want to do 35 times 70 and then divide it by 100. I know 35 over 100, putting it into my calculator, is the same as saying 0.35. 35 hundredths is 0.35. I'm going to multiply that by 70. So I am left with my part equals 0.35 times 70 is 24.5. That is the same thing as doing my equation. Remember, the equation is part equals the whole, the percent times the whole. So my part that I'm looking for equals the percent of 0.35 times my whole of 70. It's the same equation. So whether I set it up as that proportion to start, or I just put it right into the equation, I'm going to get the same answer. So let's do it for the 48 is what percent of 120? 48, what am I gonna, is that part, whole, or percent? Percent, I don't know. So that means my 120 is my whole. So, my part is 48, my whole is 120, and I don't know that percent over 100. Jude, what do I need to do?
Would you divide 48 divided by 120?
We could do that. Then I'm not done. What would I have to do after that?
Then you would have to put it into the then you'd have to divide it by 100.
I have a percent here that is divided by 100.
Oh yeah, then
So we have to multiply by 100. Multiply by 100. Dividing by 120. I could also set it up as my formula. I know my part is 48. I'm looking for my percent of 120. So it's still that dividing by 120. Okay. What do we get, Rowan?
40%.
Either way, we multiply by 100 and we divided it by that 120, we get 40%. And if we divide 48, oh, this one, we would have to remember that the number that we get, we have to put that decimal on it. So you just have to remember the decimal point to go from the decimal to the percentage. So, I see some confused looks. If we have 48 times 100, we get 4,800 divided by 120, and we get 40. Because we divided that by the 120, we get 40. So that is our percentage. Here we have 48 divided by 120 is 0.4. We need to turn that into a percentage. So that 0.4 you have to turn into the percentage. Say 0.4 is 40%. Okay, that makes sense? Up here it's making you do that times the 100, so it turns into that percentage already. Down here we just have to do it. James.
Wasn't this like one of the Khan Academy assignments?
Yeah. It was a Khan Academy assignment because I knew this was coming. Lucas,
I think I thought of another way to do it.
let's just focus on these two right now because of the time, but you can share with me when we do work time, okay? Let's look at our next one. 18 is what? Is 18 the part, the whole, or the percent? 18 is 25%. We know that's percent of what number? That's our whole. So we have 18 is the part over the whole equals 25 over 100. We want to get the W by itself. This way gets a little complicated, trying to get that W by itself because it's on the bottom. So it might be easier if we set it up with the equation. Oh, 25. So 25% is 0.25 of the whole. Now I can see, setting it up as the equation, oh, what math do I have to do to get that whole by itself? If I have 18 equals 0.25 times the whole, what do I have to do, Addie?
Divide 18 and 0.25.
I need to divide out that 0.25, that 25%. What is 18 divided by 0.25? Fiona? 72? My whole number is 72. Do you see how we did that? Sometimes setting it up as the proportion, it gets confusing with that whole on the bottom. So set it up as your equation. Our part equals the percent times the whole. We want to get the whole by itself. Right now we are multiplying it by the percent, so divide the percent out. Henry, you're shaking your head no. Which part isn't making sense?
I don't think
Do you have your calculator out?
Yeah.
Did you do 18 divided by 0.25?
Where'd you get 0.25? Because
That's 25%. When you divide by a decimal, you divide by a fraction, you end up with a bigger number. It's just fun math.
We'll get to use a calculator.
Yes, because we're testing to make sure you know the equation.
So much easier and so much easier.
Because that's 0.25.
Yeah, well, originally you don't have to do all that stuff. You just
But, Lucas, why do I want you not to do a shortcut? Because that shortcut will not always work. No, because you don't always, if you have 37%, you don't know to multiply it by what? There's not a whole number to multiply by. 0.25 gives you a whole number. All percentages won't give you that whole number that you can multiply by. All right, friends, we are not done. Shh. We are not done. Most situations, look at the next page. Most situations for which you will use these methods are real life situations. Answer each question below showing your work. Round decimal answers to the nearest 10th. Your bookshelf has 150 books in it. 20% are on the top shelf, 50% are on the middle shelf, and 30% are on the bottom shelf. How many books are on each shelf? So we have 3 equations we have to do, right? How do we find out the top shelf? What is my equation I'm going to write? Who can tell me what equation I should write? Lucas.
For the top shelf, it would be 15 times 150 times 0.2.
Because we have our part that we're looking for times our percent. 20% is 0.2 times the whole. So what is 0.2 times 150? Likely 30. So for the 20%, that equals 30. See how we got that? Can you wait till we're done with the lesson and then go? So our next one is 50%. What is my equation for 50%? Emerson.
part equals 0.5 times 150.
50% is 0.5. So 0.5 times 150, how many books are on the middle shelf? 0.5 times 150, it does a 75. Now our last one. For the bottom shelf, we have 30%. So that's 0.3 times 150. How many on the bottom shelf, Olivia?
45.
So for that 30%, it would be 45. How can I double check to make sure I did my math correct? How can I double check that? Madden?
Add them all up to see if you get 150.
Add them all up and see if I get 150. I know there's 150 books. So, instead of saying percentages, I should have said top, middle,
Yeah, it's 150.
and bottom.
I have to do that.
So, 45 plus 30, 75. 75 plus 75 is 150. So, Lucas already did it. He's correct. It all adds up. Blakely.
If you didn't want to do the bottom one, you could have just done like the first two and then added them up and then.
Correct. So, it does say showing your work. You would have had to have at least found 2 of them. And then you can just subtract those from the 150, and what's left over is what's going to be on that last shelf. That was a accurate way of doing it, or you could just do the equation for each one. No matter which way you do it, you're showing your work. You're writing down the calculations that you're doing, that you're putting into your calculator. James and Damien, we're paying attention. No matter what, you're showing your work. Let's work on the next one. Your homeroom has sold 120 raffle tickets, which is 40% of your goal. How many tickets is the goal for your homeroom? So homeroom has sold 120 raffle, 40% is the goal. Okay, this one I know. 40% is my percent. 120 raffle tickets and the ticket goal for my homeroom. Which one is the part and which one is the whole? Grace? So your homeroom has sold 120 raffle tickets, which is 40% of our goal. So our goal is going to be smaller or bigger than what that 40% our classroom has sold? Yeah, that goal is going to be bigger. So that is our whole. The 120 raffle tickets is only 40%. So that's our part. So if I were to write that out, I would say 100 or 120 is 40% of what number? So if I wrote it out like that, I could see this is the part, this is the percent, this is the whole. So if I put it into our equation, please stop talking. Our equation is part equals percent times whole. Might want to write it on the top of your page so you remember the equation. What is my equation going to look like? Jude?
So 120 is equal to 40% times whole.
Yep. And I'm just going to convert that 40% to 0.4 because my brain just automatically converts. So I wrote 0.4 for 40% times the whole. So what math do I have to do to figure it out? Jude?
Would you divide 0.4 by 0.4 and you divide 120 by 0.4?
Yep, so I'm left with my whole. 120 divided by 0.4. Well, 300. And I'm going to circle my answer so I don't get confused on where the answer is. So we have how many more left on this page?
We have 12 left. We have 5 on
5 on this page?
Wait, are we doing the third page? 12.
I'll tell you what. Tomorrow, we are going to correct page 2. On Friday, we are not going to be separated into purple and green groups. We are going to be in homeroom groups because we have the spelling bee that's going to take a lot of time. So we have history day we need to be in our homeroom class for. And I want us to do our history day research day on Friday. So then when I stop it to be math time, people will be able to work on the third page because we will correct the third page on Monday. So you could work on the third page, you could work on Khan Academy, you could work on Math Packet. So you decide. Some of us have play practice tonight and we don't want to do the third page tonight. And we're going to use our work time on Friday to do that third page. Some of us are like, I want to spend my time on Friday doing my Khan Academy and getting that math packet turned in. That's fine too. Okay. So what is due tomorrow? Raise your hand if you can tell me what is due tomorrow. Gabe. Page 2 is due tomorrow. If you want to get page 3 done, go for it. But we are correcting page 2 tomorrow. We will correct page 3 on Monday. Henry. Con is due tomorrow night, yes. All right, if you are watching the video,